welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring writers, but we never actually set the time to sit down and write.
So, to solve that issue, we're setting a challenge. Each week you sit down and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story sent in by you wonderful listeners, and then we talk about it, and then we talk about what we learned while reading it.
100%. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A doof
media production.
I don't think you caught the stream last night, Jarvis.
I did not, but can you catch me up on what happened?
It was the Doof Club, the Doof Game Club stream on Disco Elysium, the one I've been talking about for like 3 months. Yeah, we did that, and it was really, really good. And I was on there, and we talked about it, and it was a great time. So you should go check it out right now.
Yeah, definitely.
You should just have it playing in the background as we talk about the stories this week.
Sure. Hold on.
Yeah, it was a good time. Disco Elysium is that wonderful story-based game that you're a wild detective. You play the first hour or so of it, if I remember correctly.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
it's basically a really well done visual novel.
Yeah, well, I would say even more than that. But if you want to know the details about how that game works, one, you should just play it. But if you want to hear a little bit more of a pitch, you can listen to the first 5-10 minutes of that stream where we were still spoiler free. After that, you should just go play it. But it's
so
great.
I'm guessing it was a stream, so y'all also played the game
No.
You just talked about it.
Yeah, no, we just talked about it, and there was a chat, and we answered questions from chat and stuff.
Cool.
We also had clips from the game, including one of my favorites, which you might have seen when you first played, but I'm not gonna spoil it for people who haven't. So
of course.
Yeah, it's great.
But
it's great.
Where could we go to see these VODs?
It's just on YouTube. It's on the main Doof channel, I think. If you just search Doof Game Club Disco Elysium, I'm absolutely certain it'll pop up right at the top. So yeah, I really recommend it. It was a really good talk. So
cool. I will listen to it as we are doing the edit, and y'all listeners should also give it a little shot. Take a little chance.
Take a chance on me. I was gonna start singing it, but then I couldn't actually quite remember the tune.
I don't even know what song you're singing.
Take it. Oh man, no,
take
I gotta
a
Google
hint.
it.
Take a
no.
hint. From Victorious?
Take a chance on me. It's a song by ABBA.
By ABBA?
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on.
It's a great song.
Yes, I think I know what you were.
Did you watch Mamma Mia?
Talking about? Yes, I did. I've seen 1 and 2. The second one was horrible.
Was it?
Well, it didn't have the same feeling as the first one, and also the story itself got a lot more convoluted because I think they retconned some stuff from the first one. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the music was still good because ABBA's
still ABBA.
Good.
Yeah.
So what an odd project. A whole musical using a band's music. I guess that's the same thing as the AC/DC movie.
I didn't know there was an AC/DC movie.
I think it's. Hold on, let me make sure I'm saying this right. Is it AC/DC?
I'm looking at the comments of the "Take a Chance on Me" ABBA music video, and why it's half the comments are saying you can't just listen to one song of ABBA. And the next one is me, just one ABBA song before bed. Me 2 hours later. Why? Okay. You don't have to keep this in the podcast, by the way. The extended ABBA interlude.
Keep all of it. Oh, it's the Pink Floyd movie.
Oh,
The Wall.
I didn't know that either.
It's pretty decent.
Is it a Pink Floyd musical?
Kind of. It's like a surreal type psychological drama film.
Oh,
it's
a Clockwork Orange.
Kinda. It's very experimental, 100%. But it's nice. I mean, they play the whole album, so I enjoyed it for that. I don't know. I've never really watched a movie, musical, album, cover movie, and I've really been for it to where it's oh, this is better than just listening to the album, right?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a plan. We should do that for a podcast. We should do a podcast where we just listen to an album, and mostly in silence, but occasionally extending some comments, maybe. But of course, we can't actually play the music on the podcast because that would be copyright infringement. So it's just the audio of us not talking.
Well, actually, y'all. So basically, whoever is listening would have to like sync up with us.
Oh, that's true.
So we start at the same time. It's a possibility. I don't know how fun that would be.
I don't know either. Last tangent before we actually do the podcast. It's speaking of like syncing up audio. So there, Brian David Gilbert. I've probably showed you a couple of videos. He did Polygon's Unraveled series and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think separately from Polygon, he did a thing with his sister and someone else. Might have been his brother or another person. They did Stranger Things. I might have told you about it, but they made a 40-minute YouTube video where they take the first episode of Stranger Things and then they made a musical out of it. So you play that video at the same time as you start watching it, and the audio syncs up, so it looks like the people on screen are singing instead of talking.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
it's not as good as I thought it would be. Aww. But also that's something really difficult, but it is very unique and fun.
I mean, like, so. Is it good to watch for
it's enjoyable,
the novelty of it?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's just that's the primary purpose over anything else. Yeah. It's fun.
Well, that's most of YouTube, so.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's get into the actual podcast.
Yeah,
what do we do here? We some words.
So like on this podcast, we basically issue this challenge each week where we come up with 4 different words that our wonderful listeners have to make a full short story within 30 minutes over.
What were the words this week? Yeah,
thank you. So the words for this week were champagne, clearance, suffer, and oven. Very interesting words, but within these stories, they were definitely mixed in very well.
And all right, so we'll go ahead and read the story, and then we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about listener submitted stories.
So the story we are going to be talking about this week is by Nippoten with chapter 13.
So this is another one of Nippoten's entries into their series of sort of poetic little interludes. So this was a bit short, but I also thought it was really it really fit with the theme that I want to do this month. So yeah, and we'll get into that in just a bit. So I'll go ahead and start. So this is Nippoten's chapter 13. We refuged into the bookstore to avoid the rain. Her flower-printed shirt was drizzle-damped. I did not wear the dress she said she liked because she said she liked it. We took a look around. I found my way into the theology section. St. Paul, the foundation of universalism. Someone asked if I needed help with anything. I said the gods ought to pray to us. After all, we named them. They left me alone. I saw her with her nose into something from the mystery section. I had already forgotten what we were arguing about before. She tucked the book under her arm. A clearance sale meant my arms were going to be sore. She tucked another. I couldn't say I liked her all that much, but I could suffer this life with her and the next if she'd let me. Later, we would go back home. I would try to get the oven working and cook us something and have champagne, and I'd then remember what it was we argued about, and then bring it up again. She made this face when she got mad, and so I'd want to see it again. She saw me and smiled. You wouldn't notice a freckle above her nose. I walked to get a closer look.
All right. So yeah, this is a really solid, really short story. It's definitely very much so filled with this person's point of view, and this character is a mixture of like a pessimist, and he's also viewing his girlfriend in this very
I think it's a girl
negative light. Oh,
but I mean it's not like specifically said, but
yeah,
they mention wearing dresses and stuff, but
okay,
that like is necessarily one way or another, but anyway.
But yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Either way, the story is definitely really set in this main character's head, and I do like how this isn't the traditional main character, right? They're very pessimistic they're very pessimistic in a sense, and they're also very. They don't seem like a very fun person to be around. I mean, like as soon as someone asks to like help. They said gods ought to pray to us, right? So this person definitely has some pretty strong views, and they're also viewing their partner in a very negative light. So really, yeah, this story definitely creates this very complex character that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really interesting to read about.
Yeah, I did find that really interesting. Where I'm still questioning about how healthy this relationship might be, and I'm going back and forth because I think it is valid if both people are consenting and like a relationship where they just argue all the time. Like, I mean, I can imagine some enjoyment out of arguing with someone all the time, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like if it's not actually like anger, but you get some enjoyment out of that sort of thing, and out of the enjoyment of like annoying. I mean, almost everyone enjoys annoying other people sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is just maybe an extreme version of that. So I think it's like interesting that it sparks that thought and wondering in my head about how much of this can be okay. Obviously, I think like in the end you can't actually determine the health of this relationship just off of this little bit of information. You would need to know a lot more, but it's interesting. I have just like a different perspective on relationships, because you're like, clearly these people like hate each other. At least this person hates their partner. Maybe it's just like that's how they love them. And at the very end, when we have that freckle that only they notice, I think that's definitely like a sign that they really do love and care about this person. Whether it's expressed in a really good way is a different question, but they do love them.
Yeah, I mean, really within this relationship, there seems like there's a lot of give and take. There's the freckles that this main character notices, but they also aren't too fond of this other person, but they are fine with settling. Yeah, it just seems that both of these characters are willing to settle, in a sense. I don't
know if the word settle, it seems like with the line "this life and the next," right? Doesn't seem like it's settling. It seems like actually I want to be with this person forever.
But it's also suffering this
life. But I think that's sort of like a sarcastic kind of thing of like, actually they really enjoy whatever the suffering is. They enjoy the arguments, right? Mm-hmm. Like they forgot about what the argument was about, and they just want to bring it up later because they like seeing her face all mad. So
yeah, even though they do argue, it seems that their arguments are for the right reasons, if that makes sense. Because
I don't even know if it seems like the argument is for frivolous reasons, but like it's frivolous and they know it, and that's part of why they're saying it. Yeah. Maybe it's not even both. It could just be this main character. I don't know. We don't really get much of her perspective.
We're never really in the other person's head. Yeah. I mean, they could truthfully hate this other person and doesn't want to spend this life and the next with them, but throughout all this, they do still have a very strong sense of this sort of closeness. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, really, overall, this piece is really well written, because we can pull so many different things out of it and really sort of construct how this main character is thinking and like why they are really thinking that. So, yeah, there is a really deep depth when it comes to the story, especially for it being so short. So, honestly, great job. And I mean, I can tell that this style of writing just keeps getting better every chapter that we see, and it's really getting honed down to what it is at its core, which is this sort of like poetic emotional display, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So while I was reading it, I stumbled a couple times and accidentally put in words in the wrong place, and oftentimes like when I read other stories, I sometimes do that, and it may even be like a better phrasing, just because like by saying it out loud, I'm kind of autocorrecting a little bit sometimes, even unintentionally. But in this one, I think Nippoten probably puts a lot of time into polishing up every sentence. And like a practice that I did a lot in my creative writing course, that was not like something, and whenever I read an essay, it was not something that like I did intentionally, but what would happen is I would write my story or my essay, and I would find that I was like 2,000 words over how much it's supposed to be, right? And so I would have to like rigorously cut down the words I did have and consolidate. And so every single sentence became like the shortest and the fewest amount of words to like get that meaning across. And I think it really did a lot to improve my writing for those specific pieces anyway, just because only the essentials were there. And it just made everything flow a lot better, and I paid a lot more attention to my writing because I couldn't afford to waste lines if I wanted to tell this particular story. And I think that's probably something involved with how Nippoten's writing this is. I don't know if that's how they wrote this, write a longer piece and then go back. But it's very clear that every single sentence is just like the pure essentials. I said the gods ought to pray to us. After all, we named them. They left me alone. Right? These short little bits. There's really like other phrasings would be
extra.
Then I said that the gods ought to pray for us because after all, we named them. Like obviously, I'm just adding in a couple extra words, but like there are other phrasings that would have taken longer and also wouldn't have hit as hard. So. I think that's something that definitely we can learn from Nippoten's piece of just the value of that brevity and of paying attention to each sentence and word choice like that.
Yeah, definitely. Keeping it concise, thinking postmodern,
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, overall, this is a really strong piece. I mean, really, really great style. And honestly, I'm in like awe as like how quickly we can get to those emotions, how quickly we can understand what is going on without us even doing any of the like typical setting up of what time of day it is or how the air feels. We're just right in. We are in a bookstore. We are looking at books. This person comes up, and then this happens, and then this happens. So yeah, it's very streamlined, which makes for a very concise and impactful piece.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Nippoten in a comment actually mentions Cormac McCarthy, which is he's kind of known for this kind of brevity in his writing. I don't think Nippoten mentions him in that context, but it's interesting that they bring up that example, which is so it's clear that that's the sort of thing that they do pay attention to, or at least that's where they get their influence from.
Honestly, all they would have to do is just get rid of all of this punctuation, and it's just Cormac straight up.
Who needs a punctuation? I need a punctuation. I like punctuation. There's nothing like putting a comma in where it needs to be. Good stuff.
I love putting it where it doesn't need to be, just so that when people are reading it, they do take a break there, creating a whole new flow for the overall story.
I don't like it.
Of course, you've told me numerous times.
Yeah, it's interesting that the more that I start paying attention to grammar and stuff, the more I like it. Like the more that I corrected myself, the more I think less that it's just a proper way to do it, and more that like it needs to be written this way to like communicate things and to communicate language the right way, which is very interesting because I used to have the perspective very much of like, it's so stupid that people care so much about commas and semicolons and stuff. Like, just let me put it wherever I want to pause, right? But there's different kinds of pauses, and also like where a comma is
effects and all.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's sort of a tangent. But so let's get into talking about what the theme that we'll be doing for this month is, and I'm not entirely sure if we'll always stick it right here. We probably will, but it might for other months where like the story that we're talking about doesn't necessarily tie directly into the theme of that month, because the first story of a month is not going to know what the theme is, right? We might stick it closer to the word section. So, but the theme that I want to do this month is villains, right? So obviously this kind of fits in, particularly with to take a step back. So villains, right, are most commonly like the antagonist of a story. Guy. Yeah, the bad guy, right? And I think actually
the goon with the gun.
Bad guy is probably even more fitting than antagonist, because a villain can be a protagonist, like in this story, actually. This is like a kind of a villainous, bad character. But they're clearly like, we're in their head, we're sort of understanding why they are, mean and rude and such. Yeah, so this story does, I think, really well carrying across that notion of a sympathetic villain. And I think that's another thing that you can do. So for the stories for this month, you don't have to, but consider writing each story this month, or at least one, focusing on a villain. I think we might focus on a different aspect of villainy each week. Is there anything you want to focus on for this week? Maybe I'm thinking maybe sympathetic villainy, just because that's what's in the story. But
yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I think the most important thing about a villain is the justification for their villainy. No one wakes up wanting to be evil.
Well, sometimes.
Well, I mean, sometimes, but typically when we do see it,
sure,
it's mostly the ends justifying the means, right? So yeah, I think for this week, I think the most important thing is that sympathetic villainy, that bad way of going about things, but it's understandable as to how someone could view any sort of situation that way,
Yeah. And that gets pretty complicated sometimes, because it's like you don't actually want to come across as if you are advocating what that perspective is, right? Like, you could write a really sexist character, right? And maybe in that character's head, it's not just like entitlement, it's also like maybe they were hurt or something, and now they blame an entire gender. And obviously that's really wrong. And the difficulty, I think, is like conveying through that narration the flaws of that sort of thinking, while also conveying of how like easy it is to maybe slip into that, right? How do we make bad people not actually bad but also bad, right? It's complicated. So I think it's definitely worth experimenting with. And I hope that y'all have practice with this. I was just thinking about the pure evil villains, and we'll focus on that a different week. I was just thinking about turning some of those pure evil villains into like good people. I know people do like Satan like all the time, but like Sauron in Lord of the Rings is like is an excellent example of just like a pure evil character
for no reason.
And so I'm just thinking, like, what if you took him and you made him a super sympathetic villain, and you're like, oh yeah, he's taking over the world with orcs because the orcs deserve space to live, which is like, yes, really valid, but also if you read the books, the orcs they're just bad.
They literally kill each other for just land and stuff. And,
well, that sounds like humans, but
yes. See, orcs are the humans of Middle Earth.
Okay, and what are the humans?
The humans are angels.
Okay, I was gonna say the humans are the elves, and then the elves are the angels.
And what are the angels?
Elves in Lord of the Rings are just ridiculously perfect.
They can run faster. They have like wraith powers sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Shadow of Mordor?
Yes.
It's a great game. It's a very good game.
Through that game because I've never really played it, right? And it is fantastic, but I hate it because I died on the very first orc that I went up against.
And now he's your nemesis?
Yes, but
it's so good. I love that.
I killed him very easily later.
Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. You got your revenge. No, that game's great. I love that game. definitely a little flawed in some places. Gets a bit samey, but other than that, it's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been reading Lord of the Rings, which is why it's on my mind. But villains, that's the theme for the month.
Yeah.
But all right, that is the themes for this week. Let's head into the listener submitted story section, where we talk about stories other than the one that we read on the podcast.
So, thank you so much to everyone who did submit your story this week. It does the heart good to see that we got stories every single last week. So, thank you very much to Ace of Swords, Sarah Penguin, Nippoten, Paradox, and Jarby Jazz.
That's right. Let's get into the first one.
Yeah, and the first story we are going to be talking about this week is by Ace of Sword with If You Want Blood.
So I want to say right as we get into it, I actually got very confused. I misread something. It's not the fault of the story. Well, okay, I'll summarize it and then I'll say what the confusion was. So this is on that series of stories about that woman with the ability to pick up any weapon and dance with it, right? And to just go on a slaughter with it and become an expert in whatever weapon she picks up. And so she's in this dance club called Hell's Oven, and it's all like red, and she has a sword, and basically it's just a big combat section with people being shocked that there's being bloody sword murder in a club. Before one of the other hunters, the bounty hunters that we saw in one of the other scenes, starts trying to capture her, basically. So it's cool. It's a nice little setup, and obviously we have that whole thing with the sword dancing, which is fun. I got extremely confused because I saw Hell's Oven, right? And then I saw Susan, except I didn't read Susan. I read Satan. And so I thought that we were like in a club in hell, right? Like because people write that, and that Satan was here. And then I got really confused because I was like, where the hell did Satan go? And why are people worried about murder? It's hell.
Yeah, it's where murder happens. So...
Yeah, so I spent a while confused, but that's not the fault of the story. That's because I read Susan as Satan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, yeah, this is a really solid story. I just really like how this series just continues to build on top of itself, and how we keep going deeper into this main character, possibly where they got this training, or like where they sort of honed their skills. And I do like a lot of the description here. It's really setting up this sort of club really, really well. I like how, like, as soon as we get into this club, we talk about how it feels. We talk about the VIP area on every floor. So this is a very high end club.
My main thing, I was besides the Satan thing, I was a little confused. I think just because I don't have a grasp on why Susan is killing people in this club, right?
Yeah.
The last one, it was fine because it was like, oh, these people are after her, and I sort of presume that's what's going on in here. But I think a little bit more context might have helped, particularly because I started the story and I didn't remember the other entries in it. So having a little bit more, maybe some narration about what she's doing here, why she's like glad to be fighting these people. I mean, even a line of like, they wanted to hunt her, they would have to catch her first or whatever, right? That sort of thing would be enough to set up enough of a motivation and narration and context for this sort of thing. So, that would be my advice for that.
Yeah, when like I was reading it, I also did have those questions, but I kind of chalked it up to it being like a John Wick scene, fighting and action that's kind of justified, but it just looks cool, But yeah, I think definitely adding in those bits will just fill out this story. I think the most important thing for a story like this is that intention. What does the character really want from this, and that will then in turn justify whatever action you do have the main the main character doing. But yeah, overall, really, really great story, Ace of Sword.
Mm-hmm.
And up next is by Sarah Penguin with Baking.
I love your pause there, which just sort of builds it up, and it's baking. That's great. Anyway, yeah, this is wonderful little story where this girl Natalie is baking as the song plays. It's sort of a party song, but the lines in the middle are, particularly with the ending in mind, recontextualized. The lines are 2 repetitions of each phrase, promise you won't break my heart, and that will be a start, which is a nice, I always love that sort of trope to put in. I think it's a really useful one. But so she's baking, she's really messy about it, and we sort of are endeared to her in that way. When her mom comes out and asks her if she's baking, and her mother is like very emotional seeing Nat baking because this is the first time that she's done stuff after her father died. And it's just like a nice emotional moment for the two of them as they decide to continue baking together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is just a really nice moment that we see. I really do like how this main character is very messy with how they are baking, how they are double checking, making sure that they have everything, and it really does remind me of just baking and the act of cooking. But then as soon as the mother comes in, this story really does hit this moment to where we see, oh, that's why this moment is so much more significant than just someone baking. It's showing like, oh, they are able to move on. They're able to sort of move past this loss. And I think it's honestly handled really well. This story is short. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and it gets you right to that emotional impact. So yeah, overall, this is just a really strong story that seems to know exactly what it wants to tell us, and I really love it. And I really love it for that.
The main thing I would say is that I really love this moment. I think it would be very improved if it was made a little subtler. I think carrying across that information of it's because it's been so long of such a dark time after their father passed. I think that's excellent. But I think making that a sort of realization that we connect ourselves rather than spelled out, I think really makes the emotional impact hit. So something like rather than you haven't, it's nice, this is the first time you've baked since your dad passed, right? Changing that to you haven't baked since right? And then Natalie replies, yeah, since dad, right? Even that's still like very not subtle, but like that I think does change it from like a statement of what of reality, you haven't baked while singing since your dad passed and that's why I'm upset, to this emotional moment of like sort of admitting what the moment is actually about,
I see.
So making it a little subtler or holding off on the information, making it clear while also just not telling it outright, I think would really bring it out. Another way would be you haven't baked since or why are you baking? Dad always liked them, right? Saying him in the past tense, I think, would be good. So just some examples, and I think that would really, really strengthen this sort of piece.
Yeah, definitely. I know when like someone passed in my family, talking about them was definitely a sort of taboo, because it does bring up those emotions. So yeah, I think it's a great suggestion to make it a bit more subtle. Maybe as you said, instead of saying what is happening outright, bring it back down to a deeper sense of reality, right? But I mean, overall, really, really great story. And thank you very much. And up next is by Paradox with Setting the Stage.
So this is another continuation of some prior entries. In this one, Eleanor is sort of this sort of a narcissistic genius. I wouldn't say like narcissistic, but like definitely like thinks a lot of herself. She's waiting in this field. We get some more. We get a lot of her characterization all the way through when 3 people show up that she's been having to wait for. This one girl that looks very like nervous, and this other boy in like a hoodie, and then this immaculately dressed 12-year-old, right? So these are actually all kids, which we only realized about part of the way through. And we get some information of what's been going on, which is that this immaculately dressed 12-year-old, he can see the future, and he's basically become like world famous because of it. And now there's like super powered people showing up everywhere. And this kid wants to put together a team, classic put together superhero team, so that the world will not be so afraid of them. And there's also a little bit of hint in the future about how he basically sees the future of the 2 disheveled, the non-main perspective kids, that they're going to get together one day, and that it won't turn out well, but not like terribly. But there's something with superpowers and genetics that they will allow people to discover, basically. So it's a really interesting story. I really like the perspective of Eleanor and this other person's. How do they sort of mesh together, and it seems a sort of a parallel of these other lovebirds that have like a crush, but it's like they clearly relate on a more intellectual level. Eleanor and the precognitive kid.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I really do like stories like this. I mean, this is giving me heavy X-Men vibes, sort of getting together in this sort of superpower group for the like greater good, right? But I do think that the perspective of Eleanor, it works really well within this story. I mean, it starts off with this sort of sense of mystery. Why is she here? What is the purpose? What is the reason? Why don't they like nature? And I think in the beginning is where we get the biggest bits about who Eleanor is. Before a lot of these other characters start to show up. But then, as soon as the like whole group gets there, we do get this really strong dynamic between people, and I think it's handled really well how all of these people are like either not totally for it or like are for it. There is a really wide range of different people's intentions put into this story. So I mean, overall, I think that this is a really strong story. It's very well balanced, and I can tell that this is setting up for a much larger story. So overall, I really liked reading it. Great job.
Who is the final story that we're covering this week?
Yes, so the final story for this week is by Jarby Jazz with The Trudge Through the Dark.
So this is a continuation off of those series of stories about the flesh crafters and stuff. So this is the next entry in that, where the main character, Miss Coral, I forget her first name's like Este or something, Este, something. So just with an E, I don't remember. Anyway, Miss Coral and Captain Harris are going down to these tunnels to track down where the flesh crafter is, and they're going down there, and we sort of get some, ambiance building of this sort of creepy sewers and stuff. And they discover that on the walls there's this sort of like orange mold growing everywhere. And after some investigation, Miss Coral sort of explains to Captain Harris what's going on here, that this is mold growing on body fat, right? And normally flesh crafters with their science and everything make it so molds can't grow on them, but this is something different than a normal flesh crafter, something cruder but older. It's not science, it's actually magic. And it's I love how there's another spooky word other than flesh crafting. There's grave calling, so this is like more probably more of your classic necromancy kind of stuff. Yeah. And so basically the plot thickens as they investigate further in this big new cruder mystery.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the story is like really cool. You know, it's really deepening this sort of world building. I really do love the moments with this sort of like orange mold and like how it's not growing in a circle, but it's growing in like a sort of like branch like vein like way. I just think that that's a really cool point that this story makes. But overall, honestly, it's just a really strong piece. We are getting so much more from this like main character. We are seeing them excited even in this dire moment, and I think them and then the other character have a really nice back and forth. It's, you know, similar to that like goofy man, straight man dynamic, but the lines aren't really solidly drawn, you know, to where both of these people feel sort of real. And, you know, you can understand why both of them want to get to the bottom of this case. So, I mean, overall, it's just a really nice entry that sort of deepens this world building and gives us these really great moments. So really great job, Jarby Jazz.
I'm enjoying this. I always love biomagic sort of stuff, so I'm excited to see where this goes. And also the mold growing on body fat that's dripping off the walls was definitely very gross. So congrats.
Mm-hmm. Deliciously gross. Well, all right. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted your story this week. It was fantastic reading through them and talking about them. So we would like to just give a big old do the right thing thank you to everyone who did submit their stories. So thank you very much to Ace of Sword.
Thank you to Sarah Penguin.
Thank you to Nippoten.
Thank you, Paradox.
And thank you to Jarby Jazz. And we will also like to say thank you to everyone who did leave comments. Leaving comments not only under your own story, but under someone else's story can compile all of your ideas on your own stories to where everyone can see it. But also you are providing someone else with crucial feedback that can only make them and you a better writer. So, Thank you so much to Ace of Sword, Jarby Jazz, and Sarah Penguin. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Yeah, always really appreciate seeing the back and forth in the comments section.
Mm-hmm. If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going on Reddit at /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
If you want to see the words as soon as they come out, the best way to do that is to follow us on Twitter at RightThingCast. You can always also send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com just to say hi or just to tell us whatever you want.
And if you want to support us and everyone else in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. All you have to do is donate $10 or more per month to get access to exclusive bonus content, including the latest episode of Doof Over.
That's right. We should probably get on doing that again.
Yeah, we should probably make one.
At Doof Media, of course, there's always so many things going on. Kingslingers is continuing to go on. I think they covered most of the Dark Tower, and they're continuing on to other books in other Stephen King books. They also had a bonus content show called Other Levels of the Tower, where they cover some other Stephen King books that are totally, don't have anything to do with the Dark Tower series. I'm really excited to hear to the next installment of The High Ground, which is Ruben and Elliot's really funny show with Elliot's sister, where they talk about Star Wars and other bad movies, basically. So it's been really enjoyable watching those. Also, the Game Club is doing some changes as well that are really exciting. I think basically there's going to be a lot more emphasis going forward, and there always has been emphasis, but more official emphasis on the community aspect of the Game Club, of everyone, sharing streams and talking about playing it and all sorts of things, which was really fun during Disco Elysium. But of course there was a problem of it being so story based, it's kind of hard to talk if people haven't finished it, right? So but the next game that they're doing for this next month is Doom, so that's going to be fun to watch people play. Have you ever seen a Doom speedrun, Jarvis?
Yes.
It's so cool. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
And they're like spinning And like,
yeah,
it's
they're
so
flying
awesome.
around. Oh, it's
Have you
wonderful.
seen Doom 2 speed run?
I have not. Is
Even
that
faster.
Oh, okay. I
Crazy.
forgot that it was the new Doom 2. I thought you meant like the original
Oh,
Doom
the OG?
2.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I've
Is
yet
there a
to.
Doom 2? I don't know.
Yeah, there was. Pretty sure
Well,
there was four
like,
Dooms.
I wasn't sure if they were named Doom 2 or like something else, but they might. I don't know.
Maybe.
But so yeah, that's really exciting to it's watch people play this aggressive game. And
aggressively bloody
for them to talk about it. We haven't ever covered a first person shooter in the game club, so I'm excited to see what insights we can glean from it and stuff.
Yeah, the game club should just do Cyberpunk.
The new one?
Yes.
Why?
Cyberpunk 2077.
Does it do anything unique?
Yeah, it's
like what?
It made headlines for being a broken game, but
you can make a girl with a penis, which is
Also, it's
it's the
a
future.
solid story. It is ambitious, and there's always something to do. I am what they call a cyberpunk apologist.
Oh, that's terrible. It's really bad. You should stop doing that. I'm gonna send you that meme again that I have.
Which me?
Okay, well, so it's from a comic which is about a trans girl. And there's a part in it where the trans girl has sex with a cis boy, and it's like, a very vulnerable moment where she shows herself and she's very nervous about that, which is an extremely nervous moment. But so this edit of the meme has that scene, and she's like, so this is me, and then the cis boy says, wow, it's just like in Cyberpunk 2077. which is great, because it's commentary of like, oh yeah, they're being so progressive, and they're doing so much good by making it so you can make your feminine gendered body character have a big penis, like yeah,
or a small
but also
penis.
It's still not well, you know what people are gonna do. But you also you can't actually pick what your pronouns are. Your pronouns are based off of what your voice is. So it's like it's something, but it's not like
it's not all the way there.
And also most of the advertisements were like super sexual when it came to that thing. It's not actually like for trans people. That's why I keep saying make a girl with a penis, because that's what it's actually about. It's not actually about making a trans person in that game. It's just about future sexy stuff you can have. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
I mean honestly, the whole game is just horny. So
yeah. So sexualizing an entire group is never really good. So.
Never good. Hey, take it from me. Sexualizing a whole group is not good.
Yeah, it's really gross. But all right. On that note, let's get into what the one other thing on the Discord now, which is free for everyone to join. There's also now a role that you can take to get pinged. I think I've set it for every Thursday at noon Central Standard Time to be pinged for a reminder, so you can go and take that. Also, if you really think like a different time or day might be better, leave a comment on this episode, or send us an email, or join us in the Discord and just say so in the channel. And we'll consider changing it, because that was just a random time and date I decided. But let's so keeping in mind that the theme for this next month, the next 4 weeks of episodes, is going to be about villains. What are the words for this week?
So the words for this week are show, persist, band, and helmet. I already have 3 stories in mind.
Okay. Tell me one of them.
Yes.
Tell me your shortest one, Jarvis.
My shortest story, it is a battle of the band competition. Okay. But everyone in the band is wearing a football helmet, and they are called the Longbackers.
Okay.
And they're very persistent in making their really bad Midwest emo music.
Okay. Oh, is that the whole thing?
Yeah.
Wow, that's excellent. Wow, that was good job. That was one of the shortest stories you've done.
I loved it. And I'm not good with short.
Actually, so before I tell my story, the word helmet reminds me of, you know what, I'm gonna for my story, I'm just gonna tell you a story that I read. Okay, it's a story I hate. It's the original Gothic story. It's the first Gothic story ever, at least the first official one in that genre, basically. It's called The Castle of Otranto. I hated it so much. Yeah, it's really stupid. It opens, okay? It's like medieval Europe, okay? And all there's supposed to be this marriage happening between these two noble families, right? And the father of the bride goes outside to find that his daughter's fiance has been crushed by a giant helmet. Like, I'm talking like a house-sized helmet has crushed him. Oh. He's dead under the helmet. I read that and I was so confused. But that's what happened. Is this giant... There is no giant, actually. It's just the giant helmet, which apparently fell from the sky and crushed him. So it just showed up. It just showed up and killed him. And then a bunch of stuff happens where he's trying to, like, have sex with the fiance's sister or something, and it's a big old mess. So, and there's like ghosts and stuff, but he persists through all of that stuff, and then I think he gets killed, which is really just the brand of Gothic stories. So There we go. I used all the words. There we go. It's a really bad story, and read it if you wanna know the history of it. But I hated it. So
I think the only place to ever read that story is in your 10th grade English class.
I read it for world literature because it was it's British literature, but
in college?
Yeah, in college. Yeah. I mean, it's a hard read. I mean, not hard, but like
it's just thick.
Yeah, and also this was before the invention of paragraphs. Oh no. So, and also before the invention of quotation marks too. So
oh no. Okay.
There's no quotation marks, there's no paragraphs. It's just one solid block of text all the way through.
Delicious. See,
Despicable.
that is what we call pre-modern.
Well, it is worthy of analysis. There's stuff in there. The giant is actually kind of a metaphor for like the domination of the past and like someone's father being so much greater than them and never living up to the expectation and stuff. But I still hate it. So screw off with your analysis. So that's it. That's the episode.
Yeah.
we did our story things. That's the end of the episode.
Yeah. So please go and read The Castle of Otranto, because that's
is not the right thing to do. Don't do it. Actually, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do the right thing. Don't do the right thing and don't read it.